Hey guys, let's do some more FRQ practice. So this is FRQ3. This one is always going to be some kind of sinusoidal function. It's just going to be application based, so real world problem. And remember on this one, there is no calculator allowed. So you have to do all the math on paper. Okay, so let's read this problem. An amusement park is building a traditional wooden roller coaster in a new section of the park. Your engineering firm has been hired to design a section that rises and falls in a sinusoidal shape. In order to calculate the weight and stress loads accurately, your firm needs to model the function behavior of the track. The maximum point of the track is 44 meters, and the minimum is 2 meters below the ground. The park wants this section to complete the run in 18 seconds. So the periodic function h of t represents the height in meters the track is from the ground as a function of time t in seconds. So at t equals 0, the ride is at a maximum height above the ground. Okay, so they give us kind of a diagram here. You're going to have a maximum, and then our minimum goes below the ground. So if this is the ground, it goes 2 meters below. Okay, so part A is the graph of h and its dashed midline for 2 full cycles are shown. So this right here. So they give us, the squiggle, and they give us the midline. 5 points are labeled on the graph, so F, G, J, K, P. No scales indicated and no axes are presented. So they're just saying, like, they didn't tell you numbers or axes. So this is what we have to do. Determine the possible coordinates t comma d of t for 5 points F, G, J, K, and P. So I think this is a typo. This should be H, since that one is H. Okay, but basically, they just want us to find possible coordinates for these 5 points. So one of the good and bad things about this problem is that your answer might not be the same as the person next to you, but that doesn't mean that either one of you is wrong. It just means that you looked at it from a different perspective. So there is multiple correct answers for this one. Okay, so I'm going to go based off what they told me in the words. So the maximum point on the track is 44 meters. So on this graph here, maximum is this top point. Both F and P need to have a Y value of 44. So I'm kind of leaving the X blank, but I know the Y value needs to be 44. Okay, then it says it has a minimum of 2 meters below the ground. So the only minimum I see is J. I don't know the X value yet, but I know that the Y needs to be -2 because it is below the ground. And then just from here, I think we can find the middle. So what's exactly in the middle of -2 and 44? So if you remember your midpoint formula from geometry, you can do that, which is you add those two numbers, so -2 plus 44. And then you divide by 2. So this would be 42 divided by 2, which is 21. So that midline, so that's going to be points G and K, are going to have Y values of 21. Okay, so now I need to go through and find all the X values. So X values is going to be the horizontal. That's going to represent the time that it takes to complete a cycle. So I'm going to do this in a different color. It says the park wants this section to complete the run in 18 seconds. So when they say complete the run, they're talking about like the distance between the maximum and the minimum. So it's kind of misleading because it comes right after this sentence. The period is not going to be 18 seconds. It's actually going to be, what is 18 times 2? 36 seconds. Because 18 is just going to be half. Like it even says it, from maximum to minimum. So from here to here is 18 seconds. Okay, another part that we need to pay attention to is it says at t equals 0, the ride is at a maximum. So the first maximum that I see is F. So I'm going to call that one 0. And then we just said that it needs to take 18 seconds to get to its minimum, and an additional 18 seconds to get back to the maximum. And then that would kind of keep continuing to happen. Every 18 seconds, it's up, down, up, down. Okay, so now I need to figure out what these middles are. So exactly between 0 and 18 would be 9. And then exactly between 18 and 36 is going to be 27. Okay, so those are my 5 points for this. So you can write them in like I did, but you're going to have to write them on your answer sheet. So I'm going to just quickly show you what the answer sheet looks like. They actually give you a picture of the graph again, and this time they leave you a lot more space to do your points. So this one was 0, 44. This one was 9, 21, 18, -2, 27, 21, 36, 44. Okay, so they're actually going to want you to write it on your answer document. Okay, now let's look at the next part. Part B, the function h can be written in the form h of t equals a sine b x plus c plus d. Find the value for each of the constants, a, b, c, and d. So basically, they're wanting you to write an equation to match the graph that we just labeled. But specifically, they want you to label it as if this was sine. So remember the difference between sine and cosine. Sine is the one that looks like a snake. So when I'm looking at this graph above, this is why I'm saying that we might have different answers. Because when I look at it, I think of this right here as my one cycle of sine. But you guys, when you're looking at it, might look at this piece as your one cycle of sine. So in which case, our C values would definitely change. Another way to look at this, so I'm actually going to delete that highlight real quick, is what if you thought of it as being upside down? Because you could even do that. So there's going to be multiple answers. I'm just going to go with my first instinct. I wanted to start from the beginning, so I'm going to do that. So A, B, C, and D. So I'm going to work my way bottom up because the D is always the easiest one to find. D is the midline. So if we're looking at those 2 points in the middle, that midline was 21. Okay, then C is your starting point, but like horizontally. So I'm saying that I'm starting over here. So I need to know what this point is. So it's obviously on the midline, so it's something comma 21. But what would its x value be? So if I'm following the pattern, 36, 27, 18, 9, 0, it's every 9 seconds something important happens. So this must be -9. So C is going to be 9. So just be careful. Remember with B and C, they're always kind of backwards what you think. Okay, then B has to do with the period. So how long does it take to complete this? Well, if I'm starting at -9 and I'm ending at 27, that's 36 seconds to complete a cycle. So to find B, sinusoidal functions are by default 2 pi, but we're going to divide by the period. 2 over 36 does reduce down a little. That'll be 18. So B is going to be pi over 18. And then A is just the distance in between. So like this right here would be A, from the midline up until the maximum. So to get from 21 to 44, that is 23. Okay, so that's A, B, C, and D. So if you look at the answer choice or answer document, it's going to leave you space to write those numbers down. So we got 23 pi over 18, 9, and 21. But it also leaves you a whole bunch of other space. So what I would personally do is write it as an equation. So this was h of t. That means that this would be 23 sine pi over 18 another set of parentheses, x plus 9, and then plus 21. So this almost caught me up. Remember, in my picture, I moved over to the left, so that needed to be a plus sign. So be very, very careful with that. Okay, part C, refer to the graph of H in part A. Let the t-coordinate for K be considered T1, and let the t-coordinate for P be T2. On the interval from T1 to T2, what is true about H? So if you look at the answer choices, they oscillate between positive, negative, increasing, decreasing. So let's look at this interval. So it's saying K to be T1 and P to be T2. So we're looking at the interval from K to P. So that is this interval right here. Okay, so what were the two things they wanted? So is this piece positive or negative? So positive or negative, it literally means is it above 0 or below 0? So remember, I did have some negative numbers, but up here, it stayed positive, 21 and 44. So for sure, it's one of the ones that says positive. Okay, then is it increasing or decreasing? So when I look at it, I mean, in general, it's going up, right? So that is increasing. So that's it for that one. And then part C2, on that same interval from K to P, so they said T1, T2, but it's that same one, describe the concavity and determine whether the rate of change is increasing or decreasing. So on that piece, that part is concave down. And I know that when it's concave down, rate of change is decreasing. So I know that the graph itself is going up. The graph is increasing, but rate of change is decreasing. So we just got to answer in a sentence. On the interval T1, T2, the graph of H is concave down. Period. And then I'm going to just put another sentence. This means that the rate of change is decreasing on that interval. Okay, and then that is it for FRQ3. The hardest part is the first part, identifying all the points, but then after that, I feel like you guys got this one. So this one should be one of the easier ones.